G'day guys, welcome back to Bushbound. I'm Jezza and today I'm talking about camping hammocks. Now, camping hammocks are very controversial. Some people say they are the best things to sleep in. They are absolutely superb, comfortable, cozy, quick and easy to set up. But other people say they are the worst. They're like having a permanent wedgie, full time, so cold, can't sleep in them. So today I'll give you my thoughts on them. I use them a fair bit, so I'll go through the pros and the cons of owning and using a camping hammock. And hopefully by the end of the video, you'll know why you should or why you shouldn't have a camping hammock in your setup. Rightio, so before we actually start the video and go through the pros and cons of camping with a hammock style setup, I'll just go through how to set them up because they can be a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're doing. All hammock brands are pretty much the exact same on how you set them up. They're all very similar, so I'll show you with my Nakie hammock, but yeah, they're all the same. First things first, it's just a simple drawstring kind of bag. So pull that drawstring up, pull open the cord, and you'll usually have a couple of little straps. I'll put this hammock to the side, and in this other bag you have your straps that go around your two trees. Pretty simple, they're just a long strap, and I'll have lots of loops in them like that. They keep going down the whole way, there's loops and loops, and these loops just help you, adjust them to your perfect height. Now I'll show you how that all works in a second. So how you set these straps up, you just wrap them around a tree. Any tree will do. Trees are stronger than they look usually. At one end of the strap is a bigger loop, and you just feed the whole strap through that loop and pull it tight. And that tightens itself up nicely on the tree. So now I'll do the same at the other end. Just like that. Now we'll get our bag again and we'll get the actual hammock out. Now the hammock is usually actually connected to the bag, so you kind of pull it inside out, kind of, and the hammock just rolls out like that, and you can see the bag there, still connected, but it's sewn in so it won't fall off. You never lose it, which is awesome. At this end of the hammock, you have your two carabiner clips, and all these clips do, these loops and these straps, they just clip straight in like that, nice and easy, no worries. Same at this end, exactly the same. Find whatever loop reaches the best, like that. And now, that is all set up. That's all there is to it, setting up a camping hammock. Very simple, very nice and easy. You want them about your waist height, roughly. Personal preference really though, but I find waist height is pretty good for me. And yeah, all you do is just sit back, kick back, and she will be perfect. They do feel very, lightweight, I guess, and like it could break, but they actually are a lot stronger than you think, I've found, and yeah, no worries in this at all. So now I'll jump in and tell you the pros and cons of camping with a hammock and why you should have one or why you maybe shouldn't have one. Rightio, so I think one of the first things that make people buy a camping hammock in the first place is that they are very small and very lightweight. And when they're all packed up, you saw before how small it was and how compact it is. It's like the size of a sausage roll, literally. And that's amazing compared to, you know, a tent or a swag, which is even bigger than that, how small it can get, and you still get a really good night's sleep out of such a tiny thing. And also, if you're bushwalking or hiking and you're staying overnight, I think camping hammocks are the way to go. They are so small and so lightweight, you chuck them in your backpack and no worries, you forget it's even there. So they're really good for that kind of scenario. Now, the second pro I'll give these camping hammocks is that they're actually quite comfy. Now, I know a lot of people say they're not and that you can't sleep because you're bent up like a banana, but I find if you have enough space between your two trees and you pull it out so it's a lot more flat, it actually is a pretty decent night's sleep. Now, it is different to sleeping in a normal bed because you are, bent up a little bit. So it does take a bit to get used to, but I have found that I do get used to it all right, and I can sleep pretty well in a hammock, even though you are kind of, on a weird angle. I do also like how you don't need a pillow in them because your head's already supported up enough, you're already sitting up high enough, you don't really need a pillow. So it's nice and comfy for that. You just kick back, relax, and also I love the rocking motion you get, just, you know, rocks you to sleep and you are gone just like that. So I reckon they are super comfortable, especially when you think about how they are so small and yet still unfolded and set up, it is so comfy. So for my third and final pro for these camping hammocks is that you can set them up literally anywhere. It does not matter what the ground is like. A lot of campsites, they are very rocky, very hilly, very slopey. You know, you can't always find a good bit of ground to pitch a tent or a swag. But these hammocks solve that problem. All you need is 2 trees. It doesn't really matter how far apart they are because you can adjust them. So you just need to find 2 trees, set up your hammock and bang, easy as that, you're all set. So there I've given you 3 pros of why I think camping hammocks are a really good setup. They are very lightweight and compact, they are quite comfortable, and you can set them up literally anywhere and it does not matter. I use camping hammocks when I go bushwalking or hiking and I'm staying overnight. I use hammocks, but hammocks are not all positives and no negatives. There are definitely some things that are bad about them, and I'll tell you them, and also some things to look out for in case you look at buying one for yourself. Now I'd say the number 1 worst thing about hammocks, which I didn't realize until I actually bought one, is that they are freezing cold, and I mean like freezing cold. You don't really think about it much, but when you're in a swag or a tent, you're actually lying on the ground, so there's no way that air or any coldness can get up underneath you. There's only coming from the top. But with a hammock, it's totally different. You're floating in the middle of the air, so there's cold air all around you, including on top of you and also underneath you, and it is freezing cold. So if you use a hammock in cold weather, you have to have extra blankets or like an extra sleeping bag or something like that, because one sleeping bag is not enough. I think you can buy hammocks with extra insulation on the bottom, which could be an option. But yeah, I'd say if you live in Antarctica, don't buy a hammock because it'll be way too cold for you. So the second reason why I wouldn't buy a hammock is because of bugs. Now, as I've just mentioned, you can't really use hammocks in freezing cold weather because it's too cold. So you tend to use them more in warmer weather, which is perfect, really nice and relaxing, but it also means there's a lot more bugs up and about. And in a hammock, you're pretty much just lying there exposed to the elements. Now thankfully they do make fly nets for hammocks, like this one here I have from FE Active, has a fly net that zips onto it. Literally all it is, it's a separate bit of material, and there's just a zip on the top of the hammock and a zip on the bottom of the fly net, and you can just unzip the whole fly net and take it off the hammock if you don't want it, or if it's summer, you can bring it back, zip the fly net onto the hammock, and you are safe and protected from bugs and stuff at night. So I will say, if you do look at buying a camping hammock, make sure it does have a fly net you can attach onto it, because you tend to use it more in the summer months, and therefore you need a way to combat all the bugs and the mosquitoes that you get when you start using it at night during those months. One more thing I will say, which is a negative, is that they are not waterproof. You can probably not design a worse shape to try and keep water off. They are literally designed to hold water. So if you do have one, you need to think about how you'll use it in the rain. What I've done in the past is just tie a rope between the 2 trees that the hammock's attached to and had a tarp, like a tent set up, and that keeps the water off perfectly. But yeah, it just means you need to think of that. You can't just set up like a swag and you're good to go no matter what the weather is. So that's the last bad thing I'd say about them, is that they are not waterproof in any way. Rightio, so there's my thoughts and the pros and cons of owning a camping hammock. The pros are that they're very small and compact and lightweight. They're very comfy if you set them up properly, and you can set them up over any kind of terrain. All you need is 2 trees and you're all good to go. But the negative side is that they are freezing cold, especially in the winter months. And then in the summer months, you get lots of bugs that get attracted to you, so you need to have a fly net or something like that. And also they are not waterproof, so you need some sort of other protection if it looks like it'll rain. So I'll say, if you do a lot of bushwalking or hiking, or just go off walking in the bush for a couple of days with just a backpack, I would say definitely buy a hammock. They are very nice, so comfy, super lightweight, and they're super handy for that kind of scenario, and I would say nothing could beat them for that. But if you have more of a 4-wheel drive setup and you've got like an awning and you've got drawers and you've got a fridge, you'd want probably a swag or a rooftop tent just to fit in the vibe and be a lot more nice and cozy, because you will get a better night's sleep out of a swag, I'd say. But I will say camping hammocks are great. Even if you just want somewhere to kick back around the campfire, get a hammock, because they are super comfy and super relaxing for that. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. Let me know your thoughts on if you have a hammock or if you don't have a hammock and why. And yeah, I'll catch you in a later video. The hammocks I used in this video were the Nakie hammock and the FE Active one. Both great hammocks, could not fault them apart from the things I mentioned in this video. So yeah, if you're looking for a hammock, these are great places to start.